Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture about calculate with filters. Now let's take a review of what the calculate syntax look like. So it looks like this. You have the context filters, which is optional, and you also have that aggregation function that we just talked about. And in this lecture, we're going to focus on the context filter piece. The context filters, it's really the beauty and the sin of DAX. So this is where all the magic happens, but unfortunately, this is also where most of your frustration will be coming from. Let's take a look and you can see if you like it or not. Alright, so here we're using the DAX Essential Workbook, where we have already created this measure called total sales. So total sales is really just the sum of the sales amount. Alright. Now we're gonna create a measure to report the total sales, but not for all the product, only for the insurance product. So that requires us to add some filters. Let's take a look at the data. You can see that in the simple table, we have only 3 rows. We have on the product level, we have insurance, 2 rows for insurance product, and the 3rd row for the investment product. So we want to report total sales, but not for all 3 rows, only for the insurance product. So that means we need to filter based on the product column. So if the product column equals to insurance, we want to include that in our calculation. If it doesn't, then we want to exclude that row from the calculation. Alright, so let's create that measure to report on the total insurance sales. Right-click on the simple table and create a new measure. We're going to call it total insurance sales. That equals to the calculate function. And then we don't have to write sum of the sales amount column because we already created a measure called total sales. So we can just use that measure, total sales. Right. And then we need to specify the filter. So to specify a filter, you use the filter function. So filter. And the filter function takes 2 parameters. One is the table, and second is the expression. So the table we'll be filtering on is this simple table. So just go ahead and add simple. Remember to use the single quotation marks because that is how you specify a table, right? Okay, so under the simple table, we want to filter based on the product. So again, it's simple tables column called product. There we go, just click on that. We want to ask it to equal to insurance. And remember, you have to use capital I because it has to be exactly the same as it shows up in this column. Otherwise, it wouldn't match, all right? And that's our condition, and close the filter function, and then close the calculate function. Now apply our changes. Now let's go back to the report view. Drag and drop the measure we created, total insurance sales. Drop it on the table. And there we go. So we have the result showing up as $5.2. Is that accurate? Let's see. So we have sales amount $1 and then sales amount $4.2. So 1 plus 4.2, that's 5.2. So that is correct. So remember with calculate, the key is really how you modify the calculation context, right? So here we are using the filter function to filter the simple table and only keep the rows that has product equal to insurance. You can change this to investment. We would have the investment sales. So we can do investment sales. And remember to change the filters to investment. Apply your changes. And there you have it. So it's $5. And if you remove the filter context, what happens? You would be getting the total sales across everything, right? And we talked about that in the last lecture. So if we remove all the calculation context modifiers and just apply the change, you'll get $10.2 as if you didn't apply any change to the filter context. So now we have seen how the calculate with context modifiers work. Let's take a closer look at how that is actually calculated in DAX. For the first measure that we created this as sum of the simple sales amount, and we replace this piece as the total sales measure, so it's essentially the same. So our focus will be on this filter piece. So look at this. We are filtering the simple table, and we ask for the product column to equal to insurance. So this is how Power BI or DAX looks at this. So it sees that we're filtering on the product equals to insurance. It's going to look at the table below and check each of the row and pick the ones that has insurance as the product. So it says, oh, the first row and the second row has insurance as a product. Then it's going to expand that selection to the whole row. So this will be your calculation context. And then it's already finished with this filter function that we're using here. Next, it's going to look at the aggregation, which is the sum piece, sum of the sales amount. Then it's going to see, okay, we're looking at the sales amount column, that is the last column here. It's going to pick that column, and because you're looking at the sales amount column and the first two rows, so the values you are looking at are really just 1 and 4.2. Then it's very straightforward. You just sum these two values up and you get the result 5.2. That's how it works. Let's take a look at another example. In this example, we are filtering on the simple table again, but we're filtering on the product rating equals to B. And it's going to look at the product rating column and figure out which row has the value of B. And it says that that is the second row. So it's going to select the second row as our calculation context. And then it's going to look at the aggregation again. So again, we're summarizing the sales amount column to take the total of it. And we only have one row, so the total is just 4.2. So the result is 4.2. That's how it works with the calculate filters. I hope you have enjoyed this lecture, and if you have any questions, feel free to post it in the course discussion board, and I will see you in the next lecture. Bye!